here we are today, guys, at the Hub. We're here for the gallery for Paul. So it's a lovely exhibition. We're just gonna go ahead and show you guys some of the stuff that is behind the scenes on the gallery opening. But yeah, it was a great experience. Can you talk to us a little bit about yourself and what got you into photography?
So I grew up in Vegas. I've been here almost my entire life. And about 10 years ago, I started doing some international travel. And I just really fell in love with it. Then I think it was about 5-6 years ago, I took a trip to Japan.
Nice.
And I don't know, have you been there?
I lived there for 3 years. I lived in Okinawa, Japan, and I had a chance to actually go to Tokyo whenever I had leave. And there's a lot to that city, as I'm sure you're aware of too. There's just so much, like a week, 2 weeks is never enough. It seems like there's always something to find there, which is really fun. So
when I was there, all I had was an older version of an iPhone.
Okay.
And I had, dabbled in photography here and there, but I didn't have a camera. I wasn't serious about it, but I met a couple photographers in Kyoto and
nice.
Tokyo and Hiroshima.
Cool.
And I just got really inspired, not just by their work, but, the landscape of the country is amazing.
Beautiful,
and the culture. And so I almost bought a camera in Tokyo, but I decided to come back and do some research. And what I kept hearing from other photographers, if they were going to start over, they'd get a Sony. So I bought my first Sony, and after that, that's when I started doing a lot of traveling. But about 2 years ago, I had a business here, which was a gym in town.
All right.
And I closed it, sold my house, sold all my possessions.
Whoa.
And I left the States, and I've been traveling internationally ever since for the last 1.5 to 2 years.
Dang.
Only coming back to Vegas periodically to see my mother and
just to check up on
and to have an exhibition.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, some of the work, we had a chance to look at it, and it's just like, wow. Like what was the first camera actually that you got from Sony?
A7S2.
S2. Okay.
And I had a Zeiss. I think it was a zoom lens, maybe up to 135 or something like that.
Okay.
And on that note, I used to shoot with zoom almost predominantly.
Right.
But when I was in Dubai, just prior to going to India, I decided to get a 35 millimeter prime, a Sony lens.
My favorite focal length, 35. Yep.
Yeah. And boy, that really changed everything for me in terms of my approach.
Yeah.
The type of subject matter. And then I started doing a lot more, intimate photos with portraits or, actually having to engage with people rather than, being far away.
Just being the wallflower photographer.
The creepy guy shooting from around the corner.
I think we start off as that, right? I mean, that's kind of how it was for me when I first started, with my first camera, with my Rebel camera. But yeah, I mean, you got the 35 millimeter. Was all the shots here with the A7S2 as well, or was it? Did you keep upgrading, and did you get something new to shoot all the amazing work here?
Good question. Last time I was here, a number of months ago, I upgraded, and I still have my Sony, the A7, and I have a big zoom Tamron lens.
Nice.
But then I bought the A7 IV?
A7 IV, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So I got that here.
Yeah, good, solid, all-around workhorse camera. And you said you got the 35, and it kind of helped you that much more, which is a great way to kind of segue into like the process, right? So you were shooting in India. Most of the work here is predominantly India. I know there's one piece over here that's from Japan, but it looks like this whole series was predominantly in India.
Well, what happened was when I left the country to start all this traveling, I went to Colombia.
Oh,
and
cool.
I was there for about 4 months, which I didn't plan to be there that long, but things happened. And I only have one photo, the very first one on the wall.
Oh, okay.
Is from Colombia. But then I went to Morocco, which really just changed my outlook on a lot of things, and particularly Islam and the Muslim culture. And I just became very fascinated. So later in the year, there's a couple of images here. So it started off Colombia, then Morocco. These two are from Cairo, in Egypt, which I strongly recommend going there for anybody. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
And then this series of here, most of them are in India, because I think that's when my photography started evolving more.
Yeah.
because I didn't have the prime lens before.
Right.
And that's just, going to India really evolved me in terms of what the subject matter and engaging.
Right.
And then after that, I went to Vietnam. So there's a couple of images from Vietnam.
That's right. Yeah.
Just before.
Yeah. I like
Japan.
that shot of the guy just kind of overlooking the is that like a river or?
That was Big Lake.
Big Lake.
Okay. That was in Hanoi.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, thank you. I love that shot.
Yeah.
And I've sold a few of those actually from this exhibition. So I have on my website. People can buy images on a shopping cart now. So.
Yeah, we'll definitely let you guys know about that here at the end of the interview. But yeah, so I mean, back to the 35 millimeter focal, like that's a very interesting topic to talk about because again, I started with the zoom lens, having that capability of just being far away. It looks like with most of these photos, you had to really get up close and approach people. So how was that process involved with you at first, and how are you feeling about it now?
It's funny, when you do it more, you pick up on subtleties and ways of which to, acquire more images.
Right.
But when you don't do it that much, it's like you can get out of the habit of approaching people. But I know that it's within me, so when I'm in the right environment and I'm going there specifically to shoot,
Yep.
I'm more aggressive in my continual approach of doing that. But when you don't speak the language,
Yeah.
I have to communicate with body language more. And I think that and I've heard this from a number of photographers, whether ones that I researched and ones that I met, that it's largely about your energy.
Right.
And
absolutely.
I don't have to speak the language to acquire the photo. And if people don't want it, they'll use body language or on their own.
Of course.
But one of the things that I found that is really helpful is Airbnb experiences.
Airbnb experiences. Well,
yeah. So when I was in some of these countries, I'll look for other photographers that live locally, and that we can go out and shoot together.
Oh, nice. That's a really I never even thought about doing something like that. That's really interesting.
It really helps because they already know the landscape. They know where to go. They speak the language. So if I get into any kind of issue, or if they want to introduce me or ask someone for me, it's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
And for the India trip, I actually had a driver.
Oh, okay.
I know that sounds fancy, but it's very inexpensive there.
Yeah.
So I had someone that was taking me around.
Okay.
And he took me to all these wonderful locations, particularly like this ox herder, these two here with the truck, and this gal in the pink. These were in more rural areas.
Right.
So it was such a magnificent experience to do a road trip through northern India.
Okay.
Rather than just going to a big city, I got to really indulge in the culture and get an understanding of it. And the more I did that, just, man, the opportunities for photography, particularly street photography, or I would call this street in a sense, even though I'm not in a city, but I'm just driving by
Of course.
and engaging.
Right.
There's just, it's endless. India is an endless landscape for photographs, and it's I could shoot all day, every day. It's so easy, and people in India really love having their photo taken.
Yeah.
They're asking me quite often to take their picture. So it's just, I'm going to go back this next coming year.
Nice.
But I'll be in the south.
Okay, so you mostly just travel the northern regions, but definitely you're going to check the southern regions next time.
Yeah, 100%, because it's different. A lot of the ancient cities and such are in the northern part.
Yeah.
Like in Varanasi, for example, or Pushkar. But Mumbai is something that I'm very interested in, or Kolkata.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of just I always wanted to be like a geologist, or just kind of explore the world and be able to see different cultures. I'm looking at some of the photos, and it's just like what you said, it's street photography, but sometimes it's not about, the landscape and what's in the background, but it's also the people and what's in the frame, right?
Exactly.
And, looking at some of these shots, you can tell there's a lot of motion, there's a lot of colors. What I love about some of the shots is just there's so much color involved with it. It seems like it's such a vibrant, part of the world.
Yeah.
And, like what you were saying, when you travel, it kind of opens up your mind that much more. I mean, me growing up here in the U.S., growing up in the Midwest, and then not seeing the world until I joined the military, right? It really opened up my eyes to a lot of things. Within regards to that, did that, like, once you started traveling, did that really kind of help you with your photography as well? Did that help kind of like, oh, maybe I should change the angle this way, or kind of preview it this way and look at an angle a specific way?
Well, that was one of the nice things about meeting these photographers is many of them are really skilled.
Yeah.
And I don't claim to be an expert. I'm open-minded and willing to learn. And so, you know, I started learning about different angles or vantage points.
Right.
And, you know, lighting, you know, approaching people, many different aspects. So traveling internationally did that for me. Maybe that could have happened in the States, but to be honest, I really I'm bored in the States.
Yeah.
And I don't say that because
Yeah.
I don't appreciate what, you know, has happened for me in my life here, but
Of course.
I just, I want to pursue subject matter that's totally foreign to me. And I really like being a foreigner.
Yeah.
You know, where I don't understand language. I don't know where to go.
Right.
I can't read the writing. And I've got to figure everything out.
Right.
And that's part of the fun, is the challenge of that.
Yeah.
And I think that also brings out the best in me when it comes to photography.
Right, right.
Because if I'm not inspired to go out and shoot, you know, then I'm not really improving.
Right.
But when I'm shooting constantly, that's when I'm getting better.
Right, right. It's that challenge, you know, if you will. To me, that's what it was for me as well. You know, every time I see something new or experience something new, there's a challenge involved with it, and it kind of, again, opens up your mind and eye that much more to different angles and different perspectives. And
to add to that, you know, I also started playing with trying to get layers, you know, like background and foreground. But yeah, traveling internationally opened me up because I want to shoot culture.
Yeah.
And I want, and the best way to do that is to engage. And you know, particularly with that prime lens.
Yeah.
You got to get in there. You know.
Yep. Of course.
And,
yeah.
That's what's the fun part for me now, is overcoming that fear, you know, which is really non-existent, you know, because the more you do it, it becomes very natural to approach people and talk to them. And for me, that's the fun part, because I want to shoot people now.
Yeah.
In the past, when I was just getting started, I wouldn't take as many risks with my photography. And these aren't really risks, but that's you know, the word that I'm using.
Yeah.
But I would focus more on, you know, landscape or nature. But now it's like I really just want to shoot people all the time.
Right.
And it's nice when you have, you know, backdrops that are intriguing or different. You know, like in this cremation photo.
All the way over there.
What a scene that was. But where are you going to see that stuff? Unless you go to those countries. We just, you know, the States is too, in the West, it's just too familiar.
Right, yeah. It's kind of like there's a status quo in terms of just like how people are set. But like going to different countries, it kind of, you know, you don't know what to expect, you know, and it's crazy, and you want to be able to capture the shot and be able to show people, hey, this is a walk of life that you might not be aware of. But, you know, again, it's part of, to me, taking photos outside. It's an enlightening process.
Yeah.
You know, anything with photography that I do, videos and whatnot, it's always getting people informed about, you know, there's more to life than just what's inside the box. There's a lot of things outside the box. And, you know, again, doing photography like this kind of shows that to people, like, hey, there's so much more out there. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I like posting on Instagram and Facebook my photos. Yeah. And I've really started to write more.
Okay, cool.
Because I want to, the image says a lot about what's happening, but when you can put a little context to it, and maybe create a little series, it's almost documenting now for me. And I really love that.
Right.
And I'd like, you know, I want to do more of that, where maybe I'm taking on a project where I'm documenting, you know, a situation or a movement or something.
Yeah, yeah. So that's another good segue. I mean, now that you're familiar with getting really comfortable with your craft, have you challenged yourself lately? Are you expanding to other things now as well? I know you got a couple of trips planned in the future as well. How is that going to factor into how you evolve as a creative, not just for photography, but just a creative overall?
Well, this year coming up, I intend on going to Africa, Sub-Sahara.
Oh, wow.
And I've never been, and I'm nervous about it.
Yeah.
Like it's totally foreign to me. I'd like to go to Cuba,
Okay.
Brazil,
Nice.
and Jamaica. Just go places that I've never been,
Right.
that I'm inspired to shoot. And that's part of the fun, is just going around. I might just go walk for 5 hours and just go shoot and explore.
Right.
And the exploration is, you never know when you're going to get a photo or something. You'll run across something that, wow, that's really cool, and I want to capture that. But to your point, I read this book by Lindsay Addario.
Okay.
It's called "It's What I Do," and she's a war photographer.
Oh, wow.
I was really inspired by this book, and not that I want to run out to
Right.
conflict areas.
Yeah.
But I am kind of intrigued by that.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to take on a project where my work can have meaning.
Right.
Not just, oh, I'm having a photo and it's nice to look at, but maybe like if my images can bring attention to something that needs attention.
Correct.
To me, I think that would be really fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I'd love to maybe get a grant and take on a project. So this year coming up is going to be more of an exploration of what's possible with photography. I'd like to enter more competitions.
Nice.
Maybe some art shows. And I do have some relationships in Paris.
Okay.
So I'd love to have an exhibition in Paris.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I'm staying open-minded about what the future holds, but I really just want to get behind the lens again and get out of the country and start shooting more.
Okay.
And going to some of these places and countries that I've never been, it's going to challenge me to explore and seek out new subject matter.
Yeah, it's always that pursuit to improve and see new experiences to help you improve, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. And then another good question I always ask fellow photographers is like, what would you recommend to aspiring photographers, people that are just starting, right? What are some of the things you recommend them to possibly do, what to look for or read, anything like that that'll kind of assist them in like improving their skills?
I'm self-taught, and I never took any classes. And I know that in the past, when I was shooting with my phone or when I first got the camera, that I was quite a novice. I don't think that I'm an expert by any means, but I've grown a lot.
Yeah.
Just in my own skill set, and it's from two things in particular. Three things actually. Looking at photos, going to exhibitions as much as I can. When I travel, I try and go to exhibitions constantly. When I was in Switzerland, I went to a Sebastião Salgado exhibition, and that just blew my mind. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, seeing the work of other photographers, whether it be even on Instagram. Second was going out and shooting with photographers,
right,
and learning from them, because, I think that learning comes through exposure.
Right.
Like when you get exposed to different things or ways of doing things, oh, okay, I could do it from that angle. Right. Oh, that's interesting. Doesn't mean that I have to change my style or completely adopt them, but it's fun to experiment constantly with different styles of shooting. And the third thing I would say is, you just got to shoot constantly.
Yeah.
If you're not shooting that often, you're not going to acquire photos. And for me, shooting in foreign countries is what makes me want to get out and shoot all day long.
Right.
Because I want to see something different. If I'm here in Vegas, for example, I'm seeing the same things all the time. Yeah. I'm just not inspired to go shoot here.
Right.
Not that there's probably not great subject matter, but I need the unfamiliar,
right,
to draw out the best of me,
yeah,
and to inspire me to want to go and walk around a city for 5 hours.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel a lot whenever I have trips from going away from Vegas, and then bringing that back here kind of gives you a different perspective on it. But yeah, no, I totally get that within regards to just being on the road all the time. I mean, I've been on the road constantly, and living back in town is kind of difficult, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, that in itself is also a challenge for me as a photographer, is how to make the, you know, ordinary extraordinary, right? So
That's a good point.
But yeah, no. So last.
Can I add to that real
Yeah,
quick?
of course, absolutely.
Because something just popped in my head. But when I first started shooting, when I got that first Sony,
Yeah.
I just wanted to go shoot all the
Right.
time. So I started shooting in Vegas. But I quickly found that because of what I had just told you with the familiarity, also I started going to national parks.
Nice. Okay.
Because there's so many. That's one great thing about Vegas is we're so centralized with California and Utah.
Just so yeah.
You know, you can go to Sedona, you can go to Yosemite, Kings Canyon.
Yep.
You know, you could fly up to San Francisco. It's not, you know, it's a really quick flight. It's a great, intriguing city to go.
There's a lot
capture
over there.
stuff there.
Oh yeah.
Or you can go over to Utah. So I mean, there's a lot of great things to shoot here. But that's kind of how my photography evolved when I got that camera. I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago. You know, that I was shooting locally. Then I went to national parks, and then I just started traveling.
Right.
Because I needed something that was very, very different. Because if you go to one national park, yeah, they're different, but they may not be too different. You know, like Mount Rainier. How much different is it than Yosemite? They both got mountains and trees.
Right.
The configurations are obviously different. Maybe one's got waterfalls. But I think that for me, the most challenging thing, and the thing that has never-ending possibilities, is people.
There you go. That's very true.
Yeah. So
It's-
it just kept evolving to now. To now, it's like, okay, this is where I need to be.
Yeah, people
This is what I
are
wanna do.
it's such a diverse variable to have, good and bad. You're just like, you don't know what you're going to get. And that's also, you know, an unfamiliar territory in and of itself. And I think for me as a photographer, like, you know, taking photos of people, you know, either portraits or just out in the wild, right? It's always a very exciting experience because you never know what you're going to get. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's
but-
far more unpredictable when
Yeah.
you're shooting people than when you go and, you know, put up a tripod and you're waiting for the right lighting with a mountain. Right?
Yes, yes.
Which is cool, and I like that.
Right.
But shooting people is just, for me, that's where the challenge lies.
Right.
Because it forces me to get out of my comforts. I have a tendency to be an introvert.
Right.
But I'm most happy in my life in many areas when I'm being extroverted, when I'm going, you know, being outgoing, talking to people and doing things. But if I'm just, you know, isolating, and I don't seem to, it doesn't bring out the best in me.
Yeah, I totally feel that as well. That's why sometimes I like to just go out to like Fremont here in town and just take photos and just kind of, you know, and going back to what you were talking about earlier ago, it's just like being in the moment, right? Just feeling the energy and reading the energy around you and just kind of going off of that. So that's kind of a good kind of like last point to hit before we get to some of the tags to find your work.
Okay.
How do you know, what's the process involved with that? Like, you know, I'm just curious because everybody has their own ways with street photography. Nobody really talks about that specific process. Is it just your gut feeling? I mean, I know for me when I first started, it was all just my gut feeling. I got some really great, you know, candid photos of just strangers on the street, but like it evokes so much emotion. Like how does that, what you know goes on when you're looking for stuff like that out on the field?
I think some of it is definitely gut feeling. But the more I shoot, my eye begins maturing, and I start noticing a lot more. Whether it's you know, backdrops, emotions, interactions between people, a scene. When I'm shooting more, I just start picking up on more stuff that looks interesting to me.
Yeah.
But you know, like with that Vietnam photo, for example, and the guy and the fisherman.
Yep.
I was on the back of someone's moped. We had been shooting for a little while and drove back into the city, and we were driving back to my Airbnb, and I just saw this guy out of the corner of my eye.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, pull over. And I
Nice.
just got my camera out, and the lighting was great. It was sunset.
Right.
He was out there by himself. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen too. And that's the thing I love about photography the most.
Yeah.
Is the unpredictability of it, that you never know when you're going to get a great shot. I could be walking around for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm getting anything. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it made the whole day.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe even from that one area or scene, I might get 20 images that I'm really happy about. But you just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about photography. And being in like some of the, like India, for example, those type of instances are going to occur more. So for me, like if I'm, going out and shooting, I'm purposely going out just to shoot.
Right.
I want to be in an environment where those type of opportunities can pop up so much more. And, if I'm in too much of a city environment, I might see some things, but it's when I get out in the, the unfamiliar and like some of these countryside areas that, oh my gosh, there's just so much more to shoot there for me. Because it's unexpected.
Right.
Like in Vietnam, you might get some stuff within the city, but if you go to some of the rural areas, some of the subject matter is just so unique and different.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I've been trying to do a lot more, because I had, when I travel, it's easy to fly into a big city, but it takes work to go out and research and where should I go to get good quality subject matter.
Yeah.
Because a city still has familiarity from one city to the next from that standpoint. So making an effort to just do a little bit of research, but that's why, like Airbnb experience is so good, because when you talk to locals, whether they be photographer or not, you're going to get information from people. But, going and trying to figure out everything myself, that's cool. I could do that.
Yeah.
But it's so much better just to engage with people.
Yeah, engagement and just, again, experiencing and being there at the moment, right? So,
exactly. Or going on tours and things like that.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, these Airbnb experiences have been great for me. Because you can not just, maybe sometimes you can sign on to go on a photo walk with a photographer.
Yeah.
But another time, maybe there's just a tour that's going to see some castle or ancient place. You could go on the tour, and there still might be great opportunities for that. So, but that's the great thing about international travel, is there's just so many opportunities for different experiences and subject matter.
And a lot of that stuff is just mostly right place, right time, pretty much, right? It's
that
just
too.
Like, boom, in the moment. So.
Or putting yourself in those positions.
Yeah, exactly. And you're never going to have that unless you actually use your feet and get out there and, experience things.
Yeah, like, a lot of travel people think, oh, I'm just going to go to the beach and relax, or I'm going to go to the city and, have dinner and see a show. That's not the kind of travel I want. I want to get out and get in the nitty gritty, meet locals, like learn. Sometimes they might take you to their house. Yeah. And like, who knows what kind of subject matter you're going to get with that.
Free food and just cool stories, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. But cool. So future is looking pretty exciting then. Hopefully we'll have you here again from your next travels, right?
I would love that.
Where can any of the people watching this video today find any of your work?
So predominantly I'm putting it on my website, which is Fotografia de Pablito.
Whoa, okay,
yeah.
Nice.
Someone called me Pablito, or used to call me that all the time, and I just kind of picked up on that, and it was fun.
Okay, cool. You kind of just rolled with it, right?
Yeah. So Fotografia, Fotografia.
It's going to be on the
de
bottom.
Pablito. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the bottom here.
.com, or the same name, but Fotografia _de Pablito on Instagram.
Okay, cool. So we can find you on your website and on Instagram. And if anybody wants to pick up any of your work, it's going to be through your website as well too, correct?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have a shopping cart on the website, so people can order prints. And I have a printer in Chicago.
Okay.
And I had him order this exact paper, the Hennemule, I think it is, but it's a matte, and I really love it because it brings out the color. But he's really a nerd when it comes to printing, so and I trust him. So he'll print it out, put it in a tube, and ship it anywhere.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
if anybody's interested, yeah, definitely check out Paul's website, and you can go ahead and order those prints there as well. That's pretty much it. Thanks you so much, Paul, for coming in today and talking to us a little bit about your process. Hopefully we'll have you here again, maybe in like, what, another 6 months? You're typically traveling all the time?
Whenever I can stay in Vegas for a month so that the work is up. But yeah, I really, really appreciate you guys.
Of course.
Lucy is amazing.
Yep.
For helping me with this.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you to you as well.
Of course, no problem.
I'm thrilled that B&C gave me this opportunity to display my work, and I'm really stoked about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Another local Las Vegas photographer for you guys. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Thanks, brother.
All right, no problem.